the causes, and then you anyway. We'll have our chat. We'll have our chat about it. Mm-mm-mm. Aha, great. There he is.
All right, so we are live now, and welcome, Mr. Joseph.
Morning, hi.
Good morning.
Oluwaseun and Davy.
Good
It's
morning,
meant to be a
sir. How are
reverse
you?
party here.
Maybe you look like a chief, a reverse chief.
We are trying to be like you.
Give me
You
a
are our
second.
model.
Okay.
There we go.
And we're going on air. Love music, love life. You're welcome to Freshly Pressed right here on Smooth 98.1, where every weekday from 7:30, what we do is a thorough analysis of what's making the headlines right here in Nigeria. And you know that our analysts will always give us their comprehensive take, but your opinions are welcome as well. Your civil opinions. 0809-444-0981. Again, 0809-444-0981. That's the WhatsApp line to send your messages to. You can join us on YouTube, where we are streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That's the handle. It also allows you to drop your comments in case you have anything you'd like to add on YouTube. So because it's a Friday, you know the usual, who always make time out of their schedule to start their day with us and give us their balanced takes on the issues making the front burner. So welcome with me, Mr. Joseph Obari. Good morning.
Morning, Oluwaseun. Let me not cut your name short. Good morning, listeners. It's good to see you again.
Good morning
Good.
and welcome with me, Mr. A.B. Bozimo. I believe it's architect A.B. Bozimo.
You are correct. Good morning, Oluwaseun. Good morning, Joseph, and good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there.
Thank you. And as we dive into the issue that has been trending for the better part of this week, we are going to take this one from The Guardian. And it says, Senate approves state of emergency in Rivers State. And as you are in Rivers State, Mr. Joseph is from Rivers State. I believe that we can't wait to get that drone view of what's happening. So I'll start with you, Mr. AB.
Well, first of all, there's a state of emergency. We all know that was declared and been ratified by the National Assembly. That's the latest update on that. There was a slim chance that it wasn't going to be ratified because there seems to have been a reason in the past why previous senates have been called rubber stamp. Maybe this one is actually trickle. It flows wherever the current is going. That said, there were debates in the House of Us in this National Assembly yesterday, and they said they both crossed the two-thirds mark, which was required to ratify the president announcement. I want to say on record that, in my view, the president, not just in my view, the Constitution gives the president every authority to declare a state of emergency. However, the Constitution does not give any president, the authority to remove an elected official, whether at the state level or the National Assembly level, state assembly level. So I feel the president has engaged in unlawful activity, but he's been supported by the Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, who has obviously forgotten more about law than I will ever know. So there's no question about his credentials. However, I feel he has been caught up in the whole thing where you're in a political office and you must, be seen to be on team. That's as it is. I'll just say the state of emergency before, during, and after, nothing amiss has happened in River State. Everybody has been going about their peaceful business right from when there were all those shenanigans between the State House of Assembly and the governor to now. So while the state of emergency may have a dramatic tone to it, there is nothing physically, amiss here. We have 6 months now in which, according to the Senate and all that, they're going to bring the warring factions. I'd like to really understand who these warring factions are. You have the State House of Assembly, you have the governor. What was at the core of their dispute? Nobody has come out to say specifically. And I've always said, wherever they were quarreling, never did I hear that their dispute was about one perspective on how to serve the people versus another perspective. For instance, if one person said, we believe every child before the age of 5 ought to have da da da, and the other one said, no, let's leave it till they are 9 to 10, that would be a conversation or a dispute about the people. But all of it has been shrouded in mystery and all that. And I'm just reminded finally of two things. There's that story in the Bible where you hear about two women disputing over a baby, and one said, kill the child and give me half. It's better I have half of a dead child than the child lives. And the other one says, no, let the child live, even if I appear to lose custody of it. And lastly, the other thing where they say, when two brothers fight, it is strangers who will come and take over their parents' land. So right now, we have metaphorical strangers who are going to be receiving River State allocation. And there's just one little thing, maybe a lawyer like Joseph can say, there was a Supreme Court judgment that the president said he relied on that said the governor, should present the budget to the State House of Assembly. How is that going to be affected when both people have been, in my view, unlawfully suspended by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Well, over to you, Mr. Joseph.
Well, okay, I want to look at this thing from the legal perspective and to say that the president has acted in illegality on all fronts as far as this matter is concerned. Ibi has highlighted how even though the president has the powers to declare a state of emergency, the Constitution is very clear on what has to lead to that decision. The president has assumed that they all projected the political crisis in River State into the kind of conditions the Constitution spelled out, the state of war and all that and all that and all that. What has happened in River State, with his full knowledge, was him supporting a minister he appointed to upset a state government with his backing. Because in every situation where there have been effort to mediate, he had always taken side with that person. When he called a meeting, a reconciliation meeting, and wrote out resolutions that parties must follow, it was to the disadvantage of the governor. It was like, take it or leave it. The governor, in his goodwill, went ahead and withdrew the cases instituted in court. The other party, backed by the minister, did not withdraw theirs. At the end of the day, that one of those cases got to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court gave the judgment we all have been embarrassed over. Now, the governor made effort to even follow that same judgment that was questionable and was frustrated all the way. The president conveniently believed that he did not. Backed by his attorney general, the attorney general, who is a senior lawyer, the #1 law officer of the country, discountenanced all the information and publicity around how the government was being frustrated to feel the condition of the judgment of the Supreme Court, and instead was latching on to a preconceived opinion about how the governor demolished House of Assembly, he's acting illegally, and also alleged that the governor had teleguided militants to blow up, all kinds of weird allegations. But the same attorney general will not accept that Wike was behind the crisis in Rivers State because he said there is no empirical evidence. So that is pure double standard. And it's embarrassing as a lawyer for you. It's embarrassing that all of these things are happening to us. And we're here, we're looking at these things. Now, let's go to the National Assembly. Even though this whole thing happened, President made the declaration, we had expected our National Assembly to rise up to defend the Constitution. They had the opportunity yesterday to do so, but they could not because of their personal interests. What is at stake in Rivers State? Okay, let me, before I go there, the National Assembly on a critical matter like this is supposed to vote. Where on earth do you have people shout yes or no over something as serious as this? But that was what they did in the National Assembly. So our democracy is under siege. There is state capture. What is at stake in Rivers State is the control of the votes. Who determines what kind of election happens in Rivers State in 2027? It's as simple as that. The president has been made to believe that if his person is not there, he is not going to, there's no guarantee that he will get votes from Rivers State. And it is unfortunate. That's the height of desperation. What has happened in Rivers is the height of desperation. So now we have where this is why we are. And then, of course, in the next 6 months, you're talking about interventions like, oh, you're going to set up National Peace Committee. Why was it before? You're going to take up legislative responsibility under Section 11(4) of the Constitution. Where were you before? When the crisis, when the whole National House of Assembly could not function, why didn't you take on our cause on the National Assembly to take over the legislative function of the Rivers State House of Assembly? But it was convenient because they were working to a script. They were working to a script. So anybody could have blown up the oil facilities in Rivers State and blame it on the government, on state government, because it provides enough justification, in quotes, for why he has to be removed from office. And I think it's a sad day for us as Democrats in Nigeria.
Thank you. We move on, even though it's still sad and related, but this one is coming from The Punch. And following the president's declaration of emergency rule on Tuesday, the National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, that is Senator Ajibola Bashiru, he made a post on X saying, River state of emergency. APC praises Tinubu, demands extension to Osun. And now the governor of Osun State, as well as some PDP chieftain, have criticized, is even euphemizing it, have demanded for such to be taken back, and that is just equivalent to trying to capture the state. What is your take?
Well, I mean, it's just what we've said. It's state capture. So you can see the template, and this APC chieftain feels, okay, we've captured Rivers, well, we can also do the same in Osun State. Why can't we not do it? Because there is crisis. The governor is not cooperating and all that. So it's a stretch, just like Rivers State was a stretch. But you see, the APC, you can't take anything past them anymore. They are desperate, and they could do anything. So for somebody, a leader of a political party, to even voice this, to voice it, is abominable in a constitution such as ours, in a constitutional democracy such as the one we claim we practice. It is abominable for a political party leader to open his mouth to suggest that they should declare a state of emergency over a political dispute. But there's a template for them, so why not? If it can happen in Rivers State, why can't we find justification? There's crisis in Osun and so on, so the president can do whatever he wants to do, so that they can ensure that they have APC in Osun State and remove the PDP governor there. It is pathetic, really. It's very sad. And it deserves all the condemnations that have been pouring on it from the PDP.
Mr. AB? Yeah. Oh, okay. Please go on.
No,
I will just say that before yesterday's votes at the National Assembly, some people had made a tabulation of the number of elected officials, both at the Senate and at the National Assembly, House of Reps. And ostensibly, it looked as though, based on the numbers, they might not make the 2/3. And I made some comments yesterday. I said, based on what happens that's yesterday, we will know whether the PDP is actually a political party or a set of people who are incapable of paying ground rent and merely want to ride in bulletproof tinted jeeps with furniture allowances. And I can conclusively say that the PDP is a set of people who are incapable of managing their affairs, paying their ground rent, and are merely seeking office so they can be in bulletproof jeeps. They have the numbers, if they were actually being sincere, to prevent this from happening in this automated way. But they failed to, like they failed themselves and they failed the country. We have a single party nation, in my view, right now, and anything we see, we should take. But do not look at the PDP in any form as an opposition party. Since they left office 10 years ago, they have been floundering in the weeds. They have been unable to organize themselves. And, you know, if you want to go to it, the one person who said that he has supported them for the past 10 years is now one leg in the APC, one leg in the federal government, and his other leg in the PDP, ostensibly. So PDP doesn't exist. Let's just take that off the table.
We'll take some messages before we go to the next story. You can join the conversation by sending your messages to 0809-444-0981. Adegboyega Adedeji says, there is no section of government or governance in Nigeria today that has not been compromised. The executive, the judiciary, in his words, the Senate, House of Representatives, government, ministries, and agencies, etc. We're in a big mess right now in this country. There is no hope for the common man. The Moneybags group have hijacked the government and the whole essence of governance. The masses will only cry, but their cry isn't being heard. The Moneybags are having their way and celebrating their victories. These are not the days of Elijah. These are the days of a dictator. Abayomi says, why would your guest come on air to tell Nigerians that the Supreme Court ruling is incorrect and that no one is interested? His opinions are not facts. Furthermore, he falsely claimed that the president made no efforts to mediate. These statements are outright falsehood and highly misleading. Rexy from Surulere says, the president suspended the governor for 6 months. He did not remove him. For your analyst saying it was illegal, let me give him the textbook definition of a state of emergency. A situation of national danger or disaster in which a government suspends normal constitutional procedures in order to regain control. When people who have never argued a case in a FHA say the Supreme Court's ruling is embarrassing, one wonders, especially when all they have to go with is a lot of emotions and conjecture. Everybody's... Okay, Rexy. Tony from Marine Beach says, Nigerians should take note of legislators and everyone who has a hand in destroying our laws. These politicians forget that whatever goes around comes around. They'll see the evil in their actions by the time the same stick is wielded against them tomorrow. Okebolo's actions is understood if we remember the whole Edo State story and process that brought him in. Point of correction, a stranger didn't take it from them both. One of them actually took it. A clear case of unbridled desperation. Nigeria is in it. Ibrahim Zakari says, good morning, thank goodness. When the station went offline, I thought a declaration of state of emergency has been declared there. Government magic, impunity everywhere, all arms of government have been compromised. Sad indeed. And finally, I don't know your name, but you said it's embarrassing that a lawyer will come to the radio and say that a Supreme Court judgment embarrassed all because most of them egged on was suspended. But the two sides were suspended. So if the House of Assembly members had gone ahead to impeach the governor, who has been involved in gross misconduct, most of us would have shouted to high heavens. Emotions should not be used over logic. This is why it's always difficult to listen to radio analysis these days. Even every analyst now appears to be against anything that doesn't favor their own biases. Well, we'll move on to the next story, or would you like to react to any of those?
Well, the point is that everybody's is entitled to their opinion, right? So people who believe that the president acted very well, he didn't intervene. I didn't say he didn't intervene, but he was biased in his interventions. That's the point. So it's a matter of what is the logic there. I mean, if you choose to see what you want to see, you'll see that. So if you discountenance what is the fact and you choose one other thing, the same thing, argument of emotions and biases you're alleging against somebody else, it applies to you. So what has happened in Nigeria, there's a divide. Some of us are against it or what is going on. Some are in support because they see that there's something wrong in whatever the government does. So if it is in the opinion, that is, they are entitled to the opinion. But I mean, people who have been able to dissect this thing have been objectively, have said some of these oppositions that have been taken, even in court, by the law officer of the country, first law officer of the country, are biased. And they're not straightforward. They're not based on logic.
All right, we'll quickly move over to The Guardian now. The lawmaker representing Obari Federal Constituency, Representative Chinedu Obika, has urged the federal government to experiment with state police in the FCT. Mr. Joseph, yes, that will be a story.
Well, it's okay. I think the state police issue has been there for a long time. It's been debated and so on. So I think it's not out of place for somebody to suggest that FCT should be one of the places where you can try it out. And he gave a number of reasons. So one of the first reasons that it doesn't have a legislature of its own, more or less. It's actually the National Assembly that legislates for FCT. And so in that way, it's a smaller area. The city council, the area councils are overwhelmed and so on and so on. It's the same argument of being overwhelmed it applies to because there is no state that has its own police anyway. But FCT looks like a place where you can try that because it is smaller and it has a direct relationship with the National Assembly and whatever the president says applies here. So in a way, it's almost like, yes, it's a normal police thing, but you can now create that structure there. And I think it's a logic that is persuasive. It's quite persuasive.
Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you're doing a sample of the concept to roll it out, maybe see the problems, tweak it, and then stage it for further adoption. So there's nothing wrong with that. Prototyping, if you will.
All right, now we move to the Vanguard. 10 killed, 30 suffer burns as another truck explodes in Abuja. Mr. Ibi.
A very unfortunate, dangerous, and tragic story where, according to the reports, a truck lost control and slammed into stationary vehicles, and a conflagration erupted. People were trapped in their vehicles. Emergency services, such as must exist, didn't get there on time, and just an overall story of disaster. And in everything like this, I always say my favorite program is air crash investigation, because while the bad thing has happened, they always take steps back to try and get to the very root or roots of what caused the incident. On the surface here, we have a poorly maintained vehicle. Now, how do poorly maintained vehicles get to be on our roads and stay on our roads? What are the services or people who are supposed to be checking this out? You find some people in white and black uniforms called VIO stopping people randomly. How do these trucks get past such places? Now, failures can happen on any piece of equipment. I'm not saying that a VIO person is responsible for checking every single vehicle's brake, but do we even have periodic checks as we're supposed to in some of the other countries that we like to travel to with our private jets? Those of people like Joseph that have private jets. Each year, when you are trying to renew your vehicle, you must go through a comprehensive set of tests about your emission, your brakes, your indicators, your turn indicators, and all that. And then even the drivers, you're supposed to be having periodic updates. But for many people who got their license at 18 years old, many of them have never gone back to have anything, just renew, renew, renew. These vehicles, what is the mechanical state? This is one more story If it's not a tanker falling over by itself and people rushing to get fuel, it's a tanker slamming into people and catching fire. Part of it sometimes is the state of our roads, then the state of our drivers. So we really need to take a global look at this, find the true causes, and begin to eliminate or at least ameliorate them so that we don't have repetition. We hear that the FCT minister is taking on the medical bills for those who are still alive. That's a good thing. But I hear the hospitals were overwhelmed when this occurred. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we investing into the healthcare system before an emergency so that during emergencies they are better able to cope? So there is a series of questions, but the underlying story here is the tragedy that occurred, the lives that were lost, and also those who are injured permanently. There are some people whose lives have been transformed for the worse. What is going to happen to them? They might now be disabled, they may now be blind or skin. What shall happen? Let's look into that and invest where we need to. While we cannot stop people from buying presidential yachts, please let them also invest money in medical and other forms of care for ordinary people who will never drive or ride in those yachts.
Thank you. Because of our time, we'll move to the next story. And this one is about the Nigerian Immigration Service vowing to tackle corruption with contactless passport application system, e-visa. Mr. Joseph?
Well, it's only when we experience it, then we know it is true. Yeah, because it's not the first time we've heard this. Hamad minister has come out, oh, you can get your passport just online. In 1 week, 2 weeks, you can get your passport. But the reality is a different thing. Now, what happens in Nigeria is that when you set up a system that works, people deliberately frustrate the system. It is not the minister who will go and make sure that that functions. It is not the Comptroller General that will make sure that the contactless thing happens. They will still depend on the officers and the personnel in the offices to ensure that this works. So just a simple example is that you go there sometimes, you find that they say there is no network. So you try to log on, you can't log on to the service. So they have a way of frustrating the system. So for me as a person, until I experience it, until I see it happen, and people can testify from around the world. I have people in the US, what experiences they go through just to get Nigerian passport renewed is harrowing. It's as difficult as it is here. Here, if you don't pay money, of course, you can't get it. If you don't know somebody who can, if you want to go through the processes, you just wait. You have to wait. You go there, you find people sitting down, looking miserable. They don't even, there is no even comfort for you if you're going for a passport. That's at the headquarters. There's no comfort for you. So it's horrible the way, the kind of system we run where we cannot address some basic things. Just most basic things. So you go there, I've been to the passport. I mean, I had to renew my son's passport recently. And we went there and we saw, I mean, what was going on? What was going on? Or you have to pay more than you officially should. So some people will make sure that the processes do not work. At the end of the day, you fall back to the contact method. And when people meet face to face, and there's negotiation that will go on. And people who are pressed to have this document, very, very important document, will not have it. The same story you have in NIMSI. You go to NIMSI to get your national ID. It's drama. I mean, how do you have a NIMSI where people can peer into the computer of an officer who is handling a sensitive document like your national ID? Your number identification, which is social security number, as they call it in the US. Somebody can see whatever is being imputed there because they are just standing there, their computer is open, everybody, and there's a crowd around the person. We can't get simple anything right. And even when you make the effort, the government makes it, and there is some effort, intention, it is frustrated by people. Because when it doesn't work, that's when the benefit.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to that quickly?
Very quickly, one of my best experiences with the Nigerian government back in 2013 or so was actually that NIMSI. At that point, it was a new concept. My brother sent me an email address or a website address. I input my data in the comfort of my home. I set myself an appointment date and time, and I went there, and they simply they had two computers, one facing the official, one facing me. And they said, is this the data that you input? Yes. And that was how I got myself registered and the process happened. Now, when I drive past the NIMSI office here in Port Harcourt, the crowds that are there looking despondent, looking hopeless, it could work. But like Joseph said, some people have a stake in ensuring it doesn't. So now, on the back end of this contactless thing, there's a pipeline, application, filling, and then production. It should be possible to checkmate those officials, especially in the other countries where network will not go down like it does in Nigeria, and say, look, somebody applies within 14 business days, there should be a notification sent out. And when that doesn't happen, people should be sanctioned. In Nigeria, it's harder because our infrastructure, people can always make the excuse that there was no light, there was no network, there was no bread, there was no tea, there was no akara. But the point is, at least for those contactless ones abroad, they should be able to monitor it more closely. For now, we need to get to that same level locally.
Thank you. On a final note, we take the messages and call it a morning on Freshly Pressed for today. Oluwaseun says there is no opposition in the National Assembly. How can there be when they all officially sang "On Your Mandate We Stand" when the president came to visit them? They are just opposition in names only, not in reality. Z-Man from Bristol says, good morning, guys. Democracy died in Nigeria after the farce that was the 2023 presidential elections. Nigerians are reaping the benefits of their collective docility. Mark my words, if things continue in this vein, that man... All right.
This one pass Oluwaseun.
NBC is watching.
Yeah.
Hard fact, politics is not just about being right, and it's about power. The ruling party presented the case before the House of Assembly, where all political parties are represented. They secured a 2/3 majority with 234 House members voting in favor. Instead of attacking the president, remember that representatives from your own constituency supported the very decision you claim is wrong. Personal interest.
We never spared them. We said
I certainly call them out.
We call them out.
All right, we go with this one from Damilola from Lagos Island saying, Fubara trying to perpetuate illegality and threatening the federal government and by extension Nigeria was his downfall. When he demolished the state legislature and tried to rule with 4 out of 31 lawmakers, where were Smooth FM analysts? Then he went ahead to threaten or turn a blind eye to national economic sabotage. Or who is Fubara really? The Obaseki playbook won't work with this federal government. And finally, because of our time, I'll take this one. He said, Fubara is the biggest beneficiary of this suspension because there was no way he wouldn't have been impeached. We keep blaming Wike. Was he the one who told the governor to demolish the House of Assembly complex and stop salary of duly elected members? The lawyer in the studio should tell us if it's constitutional to have 3 members preside on the budget of the state. How about Fubara's inciting utterances over time? We should look at things from all sides instead of using the radio to blackmail people who don't want bigger crises to occur. Funny thing is that we will still blame the president if the state goes up in flame. We're out of time. Any final word, gentlemen?
The state is still inflamed right now. You see, it's like a picture of you fighting and with a big man fighting an underdog, a powerful person fighting an underdog. So you beat him, he's bloodied, you're taking all your blows. All he wants is to strip you naked. He just pulls your wrapper. That's all he wants to do. So right now, Nigeria is bleeding because some angry persons are angry because they feel there is no justice for them and they are taking the law into their hands. I'm not justifying it, but at the end of the day, we are going back to the days of 2006. I worked in the oil industry and I know how many years it took for Nigeria to recover its oil production. So in balancing these things, you don't have to look at just one aspect. You have to, Nigeria is in a delicate position right now. So anything that upsets the equilibrium, economic equilibrium, particularly oil production, you have to manage it sensitively. A provocateur of all of this whole thing comes and addresses a whole ethnic nationality and insults them. And you think they will just take it. So these things are very delicate, and people will look at it from different perspectives and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, it's a reality. Nigeria oil production will go down, and then where are we?
Thank you, Mr. AB. Quickly.
I wish everyone to have the calmness to assess the situation, not from a political bias or anything, but from just now. There's somebody that said something that when Wike was putting Fubara in there, where were we? They didn't call us. So let's not unduly cry for anybody in this case. These big men fighting big men. My bottom line is, where is the interest of the ordinary Rivers person and resident? Until that is discussed, honestly, I would say it doesn't concern me, but I happen to be a resident here, so it does concern me. It's going to dampen enthusiasm for investments here. So that is my only concern. Ordinary people are not at the center of this conflict. When I get that, we can have another discussion. Other than that, yes, opinions can go one way or the other, but ordinary people are not at the heart of it. So it not concern me, quote unquote.
Thank you very much for your time this morning and your presence as well. Next week, we go again. Enough for this week is his own troubles. I'm sure the troubles of next week are ahead of us. We'll be fine as Nigerians. We'll always be fine. Thank you. And you can go back to watch this YouTube stream at Smooth 91 FM Lagos on YouTube, at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. On the other side, it will be Locker Room, and then we'll be talking about sport, at least something to help us ease the tension and nerves. And do stay tuned to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun.
Thank
you. Thank you.